So we're going to continue the discussion about Chapter 3, Discrete Random Variables and Probability. So I'm going to continue my part, which is the CDF. So, cumulative distribution function and properties. The cumulative distribution function is the probability that a random variable x with a given probability distribution will be found at a value less than or equal to x. So, the CDF will be denoted as f of x, and symbolically, f of x is equal to p of x is lesser than or equal to the smaller x is equal to the summation of all f of x's. So for discrete random variable x, f of x satisfies the following properties. First is mo na siya ang kaganina kanisiya sa atong number 1. So the probability that a random variable x will be some number less than that x. So that's what it means by our number 1. And for our number 2, the second property states that f of x is greater than or equal to 0, but is lesser than or equal to 1. Since it's a probability, we know that the value will be somewhere between 0 and 1. And for number 3, if x is lesser than or equal to y, then f of x is lesser than or equal to f of y. So suppose we have two variables, two real numbers, x and y, where x is lesser than y. So it means that this f of y, as we move from left to right, or as our numbers continue to increase, the f of y will keep getting bigger, or it'll stay the same, but it will never get smaller. So it's a continuously increasing function. And nasa trivia ari, nga f of negative infinity daw kuno will always be equal to 0, and f of infinity will always be equal to 1. So, moving on. So, we have here an example. Consider the probability distribution for the digital channel example. Find the probability of 3 or fewer bits in error. So, nato dire, we already have a given probability table. So, ang ato pangitaon na lang is the 3 or fewer bits in error. So what are those values that are lesser than or equal to 3, since na may gibutang diri 3 or fewer bits? So, di ba, ang kato ng mga values kay kani hantod dira. And wala na niya pilang 4 kay ni-exceed naman siya sa 3. So, natay 5 random x variables, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we are aiming to find is the probability of 3 or fewer bits in error, as I said. So that means our probability will be x is lesser than or equal to 3. Diba? Ana siya. P, ana. And so, ang kani silang mga corresponding values sa 0 hangtod 3, muna siyang atong ipang-add, or the summation to that will be our CDF. So, it goes like this. F of x is equal to P of x is lesser than or equal to x. And this is our formula, ato solution. Rather, P of x is lesser than or equal to 3 is equal to P of x is equal to 0. Kani siya, nga value. Equal to 1, kani, equal to 2, and equal to 3. Ang answer ana niya is 0.9999, which is our CDF. So for our second example, a day's production of 850 parts contains 50 defective parts. 2 parts are selected at random without replacement. Let the random variable x equal the number of defective parts in a sample. Find the cumulative distribution function of x. So, if 850 parts daw ko na siya, and 50 ato is defective, diba? So, meaning 800 is okay or good. And 2 parts are selected at random. So, kaduha siya nag-select without replacement. Take note that this is without replacement. Let the random variable x, so x is equal to defective, number of defective parts. So we have possible three cases here. P of x is equal to 0, equal to 1, and x is equal to 2. So the probability mass function is calculated as follows. So at x is equal to 0, meaning 0, wala siya nakuha na defective, kaya diba? X is the number of defective parts. So if 0 yan nakuha, wala siya nakuha na defective. And so 800 over 850 siya sa first na pag-select. Kay 800 man ang okay, 'di ba? Over 850 or the total parts times mag-times ta og kausa pa kay tungod we collect only 2. So 799 over 849, so maiba na siya usa since this is sampling without replacement. And the answer to that is equal to 0.886. So at P of x is equal to 1 na sad kay mag-times og 2 since kaduha man ta nag-select times 800 over 850 as is ra siya kay suppose sa first nato na pagkuha or pag-select kay wala tay nakuha na defective since kanang kausara man siya ang defective, so 800 over 850 times but sa ikaduha nato nakuha na tag defective usa, so 50 over 849 maiba na siya usa ang sa total parts kay without replacement man. So the answer to that is equal to 0.111. And sa P of x is equal to 2, so duha na kabuk ang defective. So 50 na siya, kaning 50 kay 'di ba? 50 man kabuk ang defective over 850 or the total parts times 49 over 849 kay without replacement man siya. So ang answer ana is 0.003. Therefore, f of 0 is equal to P of x is lesser than or equal to 0, kani siya, nga value. I-input na to sa f of 0. And sa f of 1 sad, kay, di ba, lesser than or equal to 1 naman na siya. So, kani sila duha na mga value, i-plus na to, yung makuha tag 0.997. And lastly, sa atong f of 2, is equal to P of x is lesser than or equal to 2 is equal to 1. Kani sila tanan na values, ang summation ana niya or ang pag-add ana nila tanan is equal to 1. So, muna na siya atong f of x. Kani sila. And, pag i-input na nato sila diri sa atong graph or cumulative distribution function nga kanang graph or diagram, ang f of x ato siya ay butang sa y-axis and for the x variables ato siya ay butang sa horizontal line. So, muna ni siya. Yes. And for the mean and variance, so, muna siya ang computational formula sa variance. And to get the variance and mean, we have to make a table. This is an example in the digital channel. So, in example 3 to 4, there is a chance that a bit transmitted through a digital transmission channel is received in error. X is the number of bits received in error of the next 4 transmitted. So, the probabilities are the following. Kani sila. Given na taana nila daan. Ang ato buhat na lang is to use table to collect the mean and variance. So, are is ato first na column, muna siya ang mga x variables. Second column is the f of x. Third is the x times f of x. Fourth is x minus mean squared. Fifth is x minus mean squared times f of x. And lastly, x squared times f of x. So, example, sa dire na kanang row sa 0. So, ang x na to kay 0. And ang corresponding value niya is 0.6561. So, kani siya, diba? So, x times f of x, ato rin sila times ang kani o kani, makuha ta og 0. Okay, diba? And so, sa x minus mean squared, ang pagkuhaan sa mean kay the summation of these values over here sa x times f of x na mga values muna siya ang atong mean. And sa x minus mean squared, so x 0 minus mean squared. Square na to ang 0.4. Makuha taog kanina value 0.160. And for our x minus mean squared times f of x, so kani x minus mean squared, kanina value 0.160 times f of x, kani 0.6561, makuha taog 0.1050. And lastly, for the last column, x squared times f of x. So kani squared lang nito siyang 0 times f of x times kani again makuha gyapon taog 0. So the overall total of these values over here, or the summation to that, is equal to e of x squared. Ginatawag na siyang e of x squared. Kailangan man na siya sa ato ang variance. Ang kailangan na mga values ato variance to get the variance is kani siya o kaning siyang mean. So e of x squared, so is squared kani 0.5200 kana siya 0.5200 minus mean squared 0.4 squared. Ang answer ana maka-arrive taog variance nga 0.3600. Muna siya tong variance kani siya tong variance. And the variance is denoted as sigma squared. Kana siya, sigma squared. So the next one is the expected value of a function of a discrete random variable. So if x is a discrete random variable with probability mass function f of x, so if h of x is equal to x minus mean squared, then its expectation is the variance of x. So kani siyang expected value. Kaya nata example ana niya. So kana siya na problem given taog kanina table. And ang gipangita niya is the expected value of the square of the number of bits in error. So square of the number. So meaning x, kanira na nato siya. Here h of x is equal to x squared. So if square ni sila nato sila kaning mga random variable x. So ang expected value ana niya is muna ang iyang solution. E of x squared is equal to x squared times f of x squared kani example. Kani siya 0 squared times 0.6561. Kana diri kana sila hantod sa ika-4. Ang answer ana niya is 0.5200. So muna siyang expected value. So sa tong next topic, discrete uniform distribution. So if the random variable x assumes that values x sub 1, x sub 2, up to x sub n with equal probabilities, then the discrete uniform distribution is given by kani siya. So pasabot ani kuan daw when we have a probability distribution where every outcome is equally likely, then it is called a uniform distribution. So example ana is mo ni siya, let x be a discrete random variable ranging from a plus 1, a plus 2, for a is lesser than or equal to b. So it measures our mean is equal to ex daw ko no, para na sila sa mean, and ang variance kani para na sila sa v of x. So ang kuan sa mean is b plus a over 2, and sa variance naman is b minus a plus 1 squared squared over 12. So nata example ana. So example, Let the random variable x denote the number of 48 voice lines that are in use at a particular time. Assume that x is a discrete uniform random variable with a range of 0 to 48. Find e of x and standard deviation. So, kay 'di ba, sigma naman siya, 'di ba? Ang variance is sigma squared. And the square root of that is kani, which is the standard deviation. And ang e of x kay kaganina sa ato gi kuan kay para siya na siya sa mean. So, mean is equal to b plus a over 2. So, kani plus kani over 2 is equal to 24. Muna na siya tong mean, 24. And sa atong ikaduha, the standard deviation. So, ato na siya is square root. So, b minus a plus 1 squared minus 1 over 12 square root. So, ito siya ibutang ang mga values dira, corresponding values niya, and makuha ta og 14.14. So, muna na siya itong standard deviation, and that ends my part. So, thank you.